Have you ever felt like you don't belong? Like no matter how much you try to connect with others, something always pulls you away. While the world moves in chaos, you stand still, wondering why your path feels so different. This is not a coincidence. You have been set apart for a reason. Many of you watching have felt the sting of loneliness, the pain of being misunderstood. Friendships fade, relationships break, and no matter how much you try to fit in, something always separates you. The truth is, you are not meant to fit in. You are meant to stand out. Your isolation is not a curse, but a divine arrangement. When God chooses someone for a higher purpose, he often takes them through a season of solitude, not to punish them, but to prepare them. You are not being abandoned. You are being called. If you feel this in your soul, if this message resonates with you, drop 77 in the comments. Let's connect as a community of chosen ones walking this path together. Because today, we are revealing why God wants you to be alone, the sacred purpose of isolation. People fear loneliness because they don't understand its purpose. They assume that if they are alone, it must mean they are unworthy of love, forgotten by the world. But what if your solitude is not rejection, but redirection? When God calls someone to a higher purpose, he separates them from distractions. This is not about punishment, but about refinement. The world is filled with noise, opinions, temptations, illusions that pull you away from your true path. So God removes you from the crowd, not to make you suffer, but to make you see. Think of the great spiritual leaders throughout history. Moses was alone in the wilderness before leading his people. Jesus spent 40 days in solitude before his ministry began. Chosen ones are always pulled away from the masses before they step into their true calling. This process is not easy. When God isolates you, it may feel like everything is being taken away, relationships, opportunities, even your sense of belonging. But trust this, God is not punishing you. He is protecting you. He is breaking the chains of the world so that you can finally walk in your true purpose. Silence, the gateway to divine wisdom. The modern world fears silence. From the moment we wake up, we are surrounded by distractions. Social media, news, entertainment, endless noise. This constant stimulation keeps people asleep, unable to hear their own thoughts, let alone divine wisdom. But silence is where transformation happens. This is why God leads chosen ones into solitude, because in silence he speaks the loudest. The truth is, most people avoid being alone because they fear what they will find. But you are not most people. You are meant to awaken. When you embrace the quiet, you begin to see the world differently. The illusions that once trapped you, money, status, validation, begin to fade. And in their place, you discover clarity. You realize that the things most people chase are distractions. That true fulfillment comes not from the world, but from within. If you are in a season of isolation, don't resist it. This is your time to listen, meditate, pray, reflect. Because in the stillness, God is speaking, and only those who embrace the silence will hear his voice. Faith is strengthened in isolation. Faith is easy when life is comfortable. It's easy to trust God when you have people to rely on, when your path is clear, when you feel supported. But true faith is tested in solitude. This is why God often leads chosen ones into seasons where they feel abandoned, so they can learn to rely on him alone. When you have no one else to turn to, you are forced to seek God in ways you never have before. And through this, your faith becomes unshakable. At first, isolation may feel like a trial. You may wonder why God has stripped away your relationships, why doors have closed, why nothing seems to be moving forward. But this is where faith is built. It is in the quiet, in the waiting, that you truly learn to trust his plan. God is teaching you that your strength does not come from people, from external validation, or from worldly success. Your strength comes from him. And when you come out of this season, you will no longer need reassurance from the world, because your faith will be rooted in something eternal. The ego must die for the soul to rise. Isolation is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront yourself. Without external distractions, without constant validation, you are left alone with your thoughts, your fears, and your insecurities. But this is exactly what God intends. Ego is one of the biggest barriers to spiritual growth. It feeds on pride, on the need for recognition, on the fear of being forgotten. But chosen ones are not meant to live for approval. You are meant to rise above it. When God isolates you, he strips away the things that inflate your ego. You no longer have people praising you, supporting you, or feeding your sense of self-importance. And in this emptiness, you must face your true self. This process is painful, but it is necessary. Because once the ego dies, the soul is free to awaken. You begin to realize that your worth is not tied to what others think of you. You do not need applause. You do not need recognition. You are already enough simply by being who God created you to be. When this transformation happens, you become untouchable. You no longer crave validation. You no longer seek approval. You walk with quiet confidence, knowing that your value comes from your divine purpose, not from the opinions of others. Isolation, the training ground for spiritual warriors. Being chosen is not just about being different. It is about being prepared. And preparation always happens in solitude. Look at the great warriors of history, both spiritual and physical. They did not rise to greatness by staying comfortable. They trained in isolation, endured hardships, and faced trials that others could not bear. And when the time came, they were ready. Chosen ones are spiritual warriors, and spiritual warriors are not made in ease. Your isolation is your training ground. The challenges you face now are sharpening you, strengthening you, making you unbreakable. This is why the road has been difficult. This is why you have been tested. God is not making your life harder for no reason. He is molding you into someone who can handle the battles ahead. Because when your purpose is revealed, you will need strength, discipline, and unwavering faith. This is why you cannot compare your journey to others. While they are distracted, you are being refined. While they are seeking comfort, you are being prepared. And one day when your time comes, you will understand why you had to endure this season alone. Because you were never meant to live an ordinary life. You were meant to lead, breaking free from the illusion of the material world. Most people live their entire lives chasing things that don't truly matter. They believe happiness is found in money, success, relationships, or social status. But chosen ones are called to a higher understanding. This is why God isolates you, because He is breaking you free from the illusions that keep most people trapped. When you are constantly surrounded by the world, it's easy to get caught up in its distractions. The need for validation, the pursuit of wealth, the fear of missing out, these things cloud your vision. But in solitude, these illusions begin to fade. You start to see life for what it truly is, not what society has conditioned you to believe. You begin to realize that material things do not bring true fulfillment, that relationships based on ego and convenience are shallow, that the world is full of people searching for happiness in all the wrong places. When God removes you from these distractions, He is giving you a chance to reset, to stop chasing the things that don't serve your soul, to build a life based on truth, purpose, and divine alignment. Most people never escape the illusion. But you are not most people. You are chosen. Solitude leads to spiritual breakthroughs. Every major transformation begins in solitude. Every great awakening is preceded by a period of silence. This is why chosen ones often experience long seasons of isolation, because before God elevates you, He must first prepare you. At first, it feels like nothing is happening, like you are stuck, like life is standing still. But what you don't realize is that God is working behind the scenes. A seed does not grow the moment it is planted. It must first go deep into the soil, hidden from the world, before it begins to sprout. Your isolation is not punishment, it is preparation. This is the time when God refines your spirit, strengthens your faith, and reveals your true purpose. He removes what no longer serves you, heals old wounds, and aligns you with the path you were always meant to walk. And when the time is right, your breakthrough will come. The doors that once seemed locked will open effortlessly. The things that once confused you will suddenly make sense. Everything you have endured will lead you exactly where you need to be. So if you feel like you are in a season of waiting, trust that your transformation is happening beneath the surface. Because when it is time, nothing and no one will be able to stop what God has in store for you. Conclusion: the path of a chosen one is not easy. Isolation can feel like a heavy burden, like a test with no end. But it is through this solitude that you are being shaped, refined, and prepared for your divine purpose. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being called to something greater. So embrace this season. Use this time to grow, to reflect, to listen. Because the day will come when everything will make sense, when you will look back and realize that every lonely night, every closed door, every unanswered prayer was leading you toward your destiny. Until then, trust the process. Trust your purpose. Trust that you were chosen for a reason.